Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Your Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Today we have two special guests. You know them from the community, within the Stacks community, and they go by Diego and Dylan. They're building some really cool tools right now for building on Stacks right now, and it's called Bitflow. So if you haven't heard of it, we're going to get an intro into Bitflow. We're going to right now it's still a project. They're building out the private beta. It's close to being open for testing, and we're going to talk about that and some other projects on Stacks. But before we get into it, Diego, Dylan, James, how are you guys today during the crypto winter?
Feeling warm, feeling warm. Um, getting ready for a nice July 4th weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yes. I got my AC on and I'm motivated, as long as we're building, we're motivated, but it's a hot summer.
Yeah, it's probably a little warmer down in Miami this time of year, right?
Yeah, it's starting to getting unbearable. Uh, but it's nice. It's nice. Can't
And
complain.
Dylan, where are you?
I just moved back to Atlanta actually. Grew up here and then spent the last 3 years in Los Angeles doing some software engineering work, and then with everything being remote, was able to move back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and James, how are you, my friend? It's been a while. We took a hiatus. We were really busy with cohort two, and really cool to see all the projects coming out. And so we're kind of back on schedule now here.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm excited to hear about Bitflow and just spend some time with some Stacks folks. I mean, you know, these people they know where the future is, so it's always a pleasure to enjoy, a good conversation. And also early happy 4th of July to everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
happy 4th of July to all of you guys. Diego, Dylan, give us an intro into Bitflow stable swap pools on Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure. So the TLDR is that Bitflow is a decentralized stable swap protocol. Uh, it generates rewards for liquidity providers and for diamond-handed hodlers of native Bitcoin. And happy to expand on that.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
I'd love to hear about how people with their native Bitcoin can increase their yields.
Yeah, so I guess just to sort of say how we started, if that's okay, to start there before we dive into more of the technical stuff. I definitely want to give a lot of credit to Albert and the program he's running with the pre-accelerator. We didn't start off with this idea. And Diego and I entered the pre-accelerator with some different products in mind that we wanted to build, and he helped really shift our focus to like listening to the Stacks community and like um, and what's missing and what would be helpful if we built. And yeah, we think we found that. But yeah, Diego, I'll let you add on
Yeah,
anything if you want.
yeah, and yeah, definitely. I think that's what brought us together, and that's how I met Dylan. Even though we've been community members and probably shared a few Discord or probably beer in real life, but overall, yes, it was something that um, pivoted us to get together, but also to find a solution to a problem that exists, and that's something that the Stacks and the Bitcoin holders have presented to us. And in a bear market that we are now, I think it's the best market to test products because it allows us to really build something that's has no friction, that there's a lot of demand, and that has real value as opposed to being inflated or hyped because the market is doing so well and there's so much money flowing in. So that's the challenge, but I also see it as with good eyes.
Hey, and before we jump in, we had a chance to talk to Albert. I talked to him a couple months back when he was starting the Web3 Founders Lab, and I thought it was a really cool thing. I wish we could have joined a Zero Authority DAO. We just had a lot going on at the time. Just tell us about how cool it's been to be a part of that the program, validate some ideas, and then go through the startup methodology, as opposed to I'm just building by myself. I'm going to build this thing and people are going to actually use it. But this actually helps you validate ideas and validate if there's a business there. And shout out to Albert doing a ton of work.
Yeah, big time shout out. I mean, we start off I think the first class we talked about how Trevor wasted a year on something, and pretty quickly, into the pre-accelerator, I realized that I had wasted a year working on a supply chain finance idea that involved Bitcoin. And yeah, I mean, I feel like, we're only a month in, and I feel like I'm 100x the founder that I was before I started. They just force you to do, and with anything, it's like you get out of it what you put into it. So if you buy in, and you're willing to help out other people in their projects, you definitely get a lot out of it. Just trying to hit these crazy deadlines with talking to customers, and just doing a lot of listening and research. And it's great. It's totally changed the approach for me. So yeah, I can't speak highly enough. And it's been great also to see the people that around the OGs in the community that Albert has pulled to come and talk to us and give us their perspective as well, whether it's from DeFi or from or DAO setup, people like Orlando. Yeah, just been great.
Yeah, I would agree. It feels like we've been there for a year. The last month has been very challenging, but it's like Dylan said, it's reverse engineering, and testing it out, and really trying to understand the market's demand before we start coding, before we start spending. And we all have spent a lot of resources and time in previous projects. So and then there's a value that only the Stacks community can bring. And both of you guys are very active, and how tight knit it is, and how everyone just makes themselves available, and having one-on-ones, and having time with a small group and some big brains from the Stacks ecosystem, from DeFi to NFTs to DAOs is so much valuable. And they know that it's a community driven protocol, and we're building a lot of great things.
Yeah, I know. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I actually got the chance to chat with Dylan about kind of what you guys were building. I think you guys are getting some community feedback from a bunch of people, and I just really love the fact that you guys outreach to all these people and got a good pulse on what different people feel and what they really do with DeFi and what they're looking for, the holes that are there. That's the best way to build, and so it's just really cool to see you guys go through that process and kind of have ideas progress from that point.
Yeah, and I love how helpful just everybody in the community is. I just put out a tweet that was like, hey, if you participate in DeFi on Stacks, and if you hold any Bitcoin, would love to chat with you about something I'm trying to build. And then, it was able to interview, probably 50 people like that just from Twitter DMs.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And just to jump into before we jump into Bitflow, what were some ideas you guys were validating, and then what brought you to Bitflow and just the need for the product?
Yeah, I'll start first because I think I pivoted a little bit more towards this product, but I started with a nonprofit, basically a nonprofit wallet that nonprofit and institutions could use to easily receive donations and funding, which comes from my experience with city packs and understanding what were the challenges that some of these nonprofits, institutions, and agencies were having to receive or crowdfund or manage crypto, which then led me to simplifying that to a DeFi protocol that would just make it easy for both end users to donate and to receive, but not actually wallet. And then from the DeFi, pivoted over to Bitflow, where we are today. And after multiple meetings and ideas and everybody sharing their challenges, I felt very connected with Dylan's projects and idea for a stablecoin swap. And it was something that I said, okay, this is a great idea. Has in line with the DeFi, and I think there's a lot of market opportunity and traction right there. But it was pivoting over time and time. I think probably pivoted 6 to 7 times before we got to this stage, and then I'll let Dylan share a little bit of his journey.
Yeah, so I had mentioned that I wasted like a year working on something, and I was building on my own, and kind of got to a point where I was ready to share, and it turns out nobody cared about it. There were just already like existing solutions for the problem I thought I was trying to solve that turns out not that many people had anyways. It was about using native Bitcoin in supply chain finance and trying to give companies like a reason to hold it on their balance sheet. I think it's something that resonates with like the Stacks community, is that we have you see how much like Bitcoin capital is like sitting idle, right? Like we want to help make it a productive asset. And yeah, trying to onboard companies to use it, there were just definitely better solutions for optimizing like your working capital. So yeah, nobody cared. And then, so yeah, really we were able to pivot to where pivoted a few times, but closer to I think we found something that we've been able to validate with Bitflow, and sort of at the core of it is that it's painful to just watch your assets like sit idle and especially in a bear market like decrease in price, right? At first we were thinking like that maybe the customer would be like all Bitcoin holders, and then just through interviews learned that Bitcoiners have tons of different preferences, which right is obvious in hindsight, but when you're building, you kind of have this I don't know, this instinct you have to fight that like, yeah, I'll build this great thing and everyone will want it. It's just not true. You have to like get out there and do the groundwork of talking to people and figuring out what their real pain points are. And yeah, basically we pivoted from that supply chain finance thing to being able to like borrow against your native Bitcoin in a trustless manner. And even from those interviews, also learned that people are more interested in earning a yield on their Bitcoin than they are in borrowing against it. Yeah. So we got to thinking about, all right, what are some other gaps in the Stacks ecosystem, and how could it be possible to potentially earn a yield on your Bitcoin? And that's how we arrived at a stable swap solution, where basically the trading fees that are collected from swaps of price stable assets, so like different versions of stable coins or different versions of wrapped Bitcoin, those trading fees that the protocol collects can be distributed to people that hold Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that was key because, as you know, most of the Bitcoin is sleeping, right? And most of the people that are holding Bitcoin, in order to participate in DeFi, they have to swap for something for wrapped Bitcoin, or they have to swap for another token, or they have to have add liquidity, create different liquidity pairs, and then they're not holding their Bitcoin anymore. So that was an interest feedback from from potential customers is that, I still want to hold on to my Bitcoin. And in markets like this, it would be great if I was, generating some yields by holding that Bitcoin. Like, what are the advantages of being a holder in this market? So, um, that was the big idea of like, how can we leverage that and help Bitcoin holders participate in DeFi on the Stacks protocol.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are a lot of people who say that like Bitcoin and DeFi don't mix, and we like fundamentally disagree.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big DeFi person, and I know from months back working with Arcadeek and other folks, there was a big hole of, okay, we have one stable coin. How does it keep its peg? You need something to trade it against. And finally, we have XUSD, and then there was all this talk about, yeah, like where's the best place to have a stable swap, and yeah, like that comparison that Zero just put up. The fees and the slippage. For something to be stable, you really need low slippage, right? And so it looks like what you guys are providing is going to be a really premium solution.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need like a more mature stablecoin marketplace on Stacks, and slippage is a big part of that, right? How do you can incentivize these deeper liquidity pools if there's a lot of like demand from the trading side because the fees are so low. So this product is really quite similar to Curve. If you're familiar with like a Curve solution versus like doing swaps on Aave, Curve is able to offer like significantly lower trading fees, like the same as us, 0.04%. But the really interesting flywheel that we bring to the table is that you get to boost your rewards with Bitcoin versus being able to only boost your rewards with like the governance token of the Curve protocol.
I was going to say, yeah, this reminds me, and to be frank, there's been a lot of talk in the past that we do need a curve-like yield aggregator on Stacks, and it just hasn't been built yet. So I'm also excited for that reason. Where as far as like the stable coins, in Curve right now today, there's the three stablecoin pool with USD and USDC, and I think with Tether, is it similar to that where they're able to do the stable swaps, but also uh, eliminate or reduce the slippage there? Is that something that Bitflow would also do, but you guys have the additional component of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah, definitely similar. And they use a different approach to pricing. Um, Curve does versus Aave, right? And they're able to handle like much more imbalanced pools because they're primarily focused on just stable swaps.
And the other key component as well is not giving up custody of your Bitcoin, right? That's also key. Like, how can you earn a yield on your Bitcoin using the stable swap protocol, but not have to stake it or give custody to your tokens to a third party, right? A CFI or DeFi. And how can we work around that? And that's something that it's key to bring in more Bitcoin participants.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious too with well, there's a lot to dive into on the Bitcoin side. So for people that lock up their Bitcoin, they have the ability to earn a higher yield. I guess how you guys are envisioning it or are building it right now is the they provide liquidity in the stable swap as well. So they
Hey, it could be the connection on my end, but it's breaking up pretty bad. Wasn't able to get the full question.
Yeah, you breaking up, James.
But I think you were asking about like just sort of the vision for how we would like generate the yield and how it'd be possible to do it with boosting versus um, just outright locking up your Bitcoin and earning fees, right?
Yeah, yeah. The crux of it is you add to the LP and you add Bitcoin to get a leveraged return or an increased return, right?
Yeah. Do you have that page that we were looking at just a second ago? The beta.bitflow.finance. Could you pull that back up? Yeah. So if you click on the learn more about the uh, like learn about yield on native Bitcoin, this should show you the sort of the two ways that it's
Should
possible.
I click on learn more?
No, you're fine. I think this is
Okay.
good right here. So
Yeah, that's a good example.
yeah, there's sort of like from a user perspective, there's two um, two types of ways to look at this. So like one is from the perspective of a liquidity provider. You're already putting in XUSD and USDA into a pool, and you're able to boost your rewards by locking your native Bitcoin up in escrow via a DLC. So it's non-custodial, but we track the state of the DLC and whether or not you're participating in a certain cycle, right? And if you are participating in that cycle, then you will receive proportionally a percentage of the fees that we've set aside for people to boost their rewards with Bitcoin. And on the right hand side, you have hope, which we have something from the Bitcoin perspective, like the sort of the pure play of like you simply lock up your Bitcoin and you're able to earn a yield, right? We're hoping that that's going to be something that is a great flywheel for the protocol and helps bring Stacks liquidity to Bitcoin holders, and then also brings the Bitcoin community to Stacks. So yeah, from the user experience perspective, you would basically just lock up your Bitcoin in escrow via DLC, and then a small percentage of the fees would be allocated to you proportionally. Let me know if I lost you.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a boosting mechanism that we're rewarding people for holding Bitcoin while they have the opportunity to also participate as a liquidity provider. So most people that, let's say in the Stacks ecosystem that have Bitcoin, have Stacks or have USDC or USDA and USD XSUD, they could participate in liquidity in other LP pools, but this one would give you the benefits and the advantage of getting more because you're holding on to that Bitcoin. We're not touching it. No one's touching it. At the worst case scenario, the Bitcoin goes back to you, and you're just using as a proof of, I mentioned the Dylan proof of holder, right? And that proof of holding gives you a higher yield generated from these stable swap trading fees.
Yeah, and we're hoping this will be like a win-win for,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in the community, right? Because I think it gives more of a reason to be using stable coins on Stacks as well.
Yeah, for sure. And for the people listening in, the DLC link is how you guys will be able to do that on the Bitcoin side, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Those and I know there's talk about like how all that will work. People are still figuring out building on it and everything, but it's really interesting how I kind of view it like Lightning, but with you can add a little bit of smart contract. It's always listening in on the stack side, right?
Yeah, yeah. And some of the more exciting stuff that we have lined up down the road can maybe drop a little bit of alpha. um, but it's also
We love
super
when
super
people
R&D.
come in and drop some alpha here.
uh, yeah, so yeah, we're also trying to explore, and it's definitely early days on this, but the the ability to, from the user perspective, just lock up your Bitcoin, right? And then on the stack side, um, since we're tracking the state of the DLC, we'll be able to, the contract will handle like the minting and burning of a, and essentially like a non-custodially wrapped Bitcoin. And it'll mint it directly into a stable swap pool with other versions of wrapped Bitcoin, so that for the user that's just locking up their Bitcoin, they can earn even higher returns.
So that's basically where we're using that escrow Bitcoin, or you're using as collateral to participate in the liquidity pool of other wrapped Bitcoins, but without actually having to swap to a wrapped Bitcoin or to a centralized finance, um, allowing you to have more flexibility and trust, which is important for people holding Bitcoin. So that's kind of the goal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the key piece we have left with that is just to make sure that you know that the minting part is maybe a little bit easier, but we also want to make sure that for this to really be like a non-custodially wrapped Bitcoin, we've also got to make sure that the uh, when the real Bitcoin, all right, on the main chain returns to the user's wallet, um, then an equal amount 1-to-1 is burned from that liquidity pool. Otherwise, we don't really have a non-custodially wrapped Bitcoin, right? So that's the part that's still R&D, but definitely excited about it.
can you tell us more about the R&D process? What does that look like as far as you guys testing on testnet? And can you guys peel back the curtain here for other teams that are looking to build on stacks? Talk about just like designing some workflows, doing some builds, and then like how do you guys think about the test, the beta test? Are you it's open, so and we encourage anyone to go sign up, but when they sign up and register, how will they do that and get involved?
So I think that the community provides a lot of good like testing environments locally, but I guess first I would say before you get to building, like anyone that's like trying to get into the space, don't make the same mistakes that you know that I did a year or more ago of just trying to build, right? Definitely focus like first on making sure you have like product market fit or protocol market fit. Um, and that just involves like a lot of talking to the community, and that's going to help you figure out um, which which other contracts you can use, right, to sort of build off of like the composability factor that you have with DeFi to be able to use other protocols, um, and borrow some of that code to make it even easier to launch something of your own.
That's a great point. And we're getting to this point now in the evolution of stacks like Ethereum, where there is composability. People can leverage what Arcadico has built with their USDA stablecoins, or you could use Alex Go right into their liquidity pools. Something that we have explored for Zero Authority is the ability to swap, and we have talked to StackSwap for their liquidity pools. So talk to us about like how you guys look at composability as well.
Well, for us, we're not trying to create our own stablecoin for starters, right? Um,
Right, right.
people have all sorts of different preferences for how you represent the value of a dollar on chain, and none of them are guaranteed to always be worth the same value as like a physical dollar. Some are more centralized and some are more decentralized, and some methods are somewhere in between. So we don't have to worry about like trying to create our own stablecoin. but we get to leverage what's already been built and use some of those functions in our own protocols. So yeah, that's the great thing about this type of these type of projects, right? The code is published on chain, the stacks, right? And so you can go through and look at what other people have done. And anytime you introduce someone else's project into your own, you're introducing the risks of their smart contracts as well. So something to also consider, be careful of.
No, that's a really good point. And just going back, so people, there's a two use cases where you can use the protocol without locking your Bitcoin, and then you can get the boost by locking your Bitcoin. Uh, how do you see different use cases playing out?
What do you mean?
So if, like, let's say, obviously I love to sign up and test a lot of the new protocols. If I were going to test and try to use this uh, and be a liquidity provider, would I have to lock my Bitcoin as collateral?
It depends on what part of the protocol you want to test, right? Are you interested in being a liquidity provider on the stablecoin side? Then maybe you get your feet wet with just providing XUSD and USDA. And if you feel more comfortable, maybe provide like deeper liquidity to the pool. And then maybe the next logical step is you try locking up a small amount of Bitcoin into this non-custodial escrow and enjoy the benefits of having boosted rewards. And when that goes well, maybe you lock up more, right? And then if you're the type of user who mostly holds Bitcoin and just a little bit of something else, then maybe you start off with transferring a small amount to like a hot wallet, right? A small portion of your holdings, and then testing out how much yield you're really getting on your Bitcoin, which like fundamentally will come down to how much trading activity there is on the protocol itself. So that's sort of like the two different types of user journeys, I would say.
Yeah, and in answer to the question as well, no, you don't have to lock your Bitcoin to start participating. It's not mandatory. It's something that will boost your reward. So that allows us to reach out to both the liquidity provider as well as to the liquidity provider that has Bitcoin. So that is an option, as opposed to being mandatory. And that gives us more flexibility to build that deeper liquidity pool.
Yeah, it's possible that no one could lock up their Bitcoin and the protocol still functions perfectly fine.
Yeah, I was curious too with the yields that are earned. Are you guys still contemplating a token for a product like this, or are you thinking that the yields would just come back in the form of the stable swap, the stable coins that you guys have on the platform? Or
Yeah, it's a great question. Definitely had like a strong preference to avoid a token if possible. And the more we looked into it, the more we realized that you need one if you want your protocol to be decentralized. And so the governance token is essentially used to vote on the emissions and the rewards and adding and the allocation of that to different pools, as well as like the introduction of other pools. So take City Coins for example. If and when that project launches City Cash, should it be just up to Diego and I to decide to add that to the pool, to the protocol, or should it be up to like a larger set of users that have essentially earned voting power through their participation? So, we do plan on issuing because we would prefer for this protocol to become more and more decentralized over time.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And there's uh, I feel like there's some people out there in crypto where they always try and shy away from another token, and it's when it fits into place with what you're building, I think it perfectly makes sense to go ahead and do it. And that's just my stance on it. If it fits into what you're building, and it gives your users what you're looking to give them, at that point you're fulfilling what you're trying to build, right? So
Yeah, totally agree.
So we have a few minutes.
We're thinking of calling it the BFF token.
hey, I like it.
Yeah, that fits very well. We have a few minutes left here, and this has been a really good conversation. Also, too, we James and I talk about a lot that we do want to bring teams on live stream and our Twitter spaces and any other channels that we have, even if you have not fully built a project, because we do need we need, just as a community in general, to encourage more experimentation, but validate the results, validate review through smart contract review with people in the ecosystem, but also do some experimentation. Not everything has to be 100% thought out and 100% planned. That's the beauty of building on these new protocols and building new applications. We do need to encourage each other to do that as well. And so I appreciate you guys. I know you guys are still in the build phase, in the idea phase, and you guys are really further along, but also that we want to show people in the community that they can also build some ideas and have the iterations as well.
Yeah, I love that you guys are doing that, and grateful that you guys would have us on so we could talk about it with you. And would encourage anybody that's thinking about building something to rush to Albert's program.
Yeah, and also one example of this type of experiment or experiments is, for example, the DLC Link hackathon, where we saw, Dylan, I think it was 3 or 4 products being basically tested out in 24 hours or 48 hours that we had. And a lot of great ideas came from that hackathon of how can we use DLC Link. And that, that's the experimentation phase. And that type of initiatives, I think really helps um, to boost the community to go after and try to find a solution, and to try new technology, and to see how it works, and create proof of concepts that can change the whole game. I mean, if we think about where it's going with escrowing and allowing to do futures, forex, option tradings, even just basic payments, betting, in-game payments, and so there's just so much utility that once you build that tool, it's definitely going to help the other one. But these types of hackathons and experiments are essential, and it's essential part of the scientific method of getting there. Right? It's trying it out, and changing. The goal here is as a decentralized swap protocol is to really leverage the community and governance and all the good stuff that brings in, and the big brains that we have, and translate what the community wants into a great product. And that can only be done through the Web3 format that we have today, right? As opposed to just me, you, and I deciding this is how the product is going to be made, this is how the product is going to function, these are the rules. The idea is really to be as decentralized as we can from the get-go.
Yeah, I really love to see what you guys are doing, and I was saying just the other day, it's like you see through all this volatility, you see all kinds of things that are breaking around the crypto world, and all these models that people tout was the end all be all of how things are supposed to be laid out. They're getting put to the test, And it's interesting. I view it that Bitcoin is really the only thing that's been proven time and time again that model works. And so I encourage everybody to try different things out. There's no proven track record yet that is going to hold up, and so this experimentation is how you find really the best solution for different things. So really props to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I completely agree. I think people sometimes forget that we're all just, experimenting, and, you know, Bitcoin is like the, like the most, it stood the test of time so far, in the best way. And it makes the most sense to build on Bitcoin because it feels like it's built to last more than anything else that's out there. So
Yeah, even more so than ever. I was there was a Twitter space probably like a month ago with Stacks, and Munib was there, Patrick and Trevor and Kyle and Andrea, and we were just talking about we were talking with DLC Link and some other teams. I think Orlando and Ryan from Stacker DAO Labs. But it just even more so going through this crypto winter, if you've been around a while, or if this is your second one, you just realize Bitcoin is not going anywhere, and even Ethereum is probably not going anywhere, and so Stacks is also going to be viewed as a smart contract layer for Bitcoin, and that has a place in this economy as well, or just like the blockchain economy. One thing I'm starting to see emerge too is like the different types of consensus algorithms for chains. So if you have your proof of work that has been associated with Bitcoin, and you have your proof of stake now kind of to the Ethereum with ETH point 2.0, some of the ETH killers, well, if it's just faster transaction and eventually Ethereum has the network, but they do that, well then how do you really stand out? And that's where I do think Stacks stands apart from a number of different blockchain ecosystems. And again, I do think it's going to be a multi-chain world, but Stacks is different in the way that you lock up your stacks and you get a yield in Bitcoin. There is no other place that you can do that. And I just think it's amazing when you think about it. And then just some of the projects that everyone is building. Are you guys also thinking about going into the accelerator later on?
yeah, definitely. Trevor, and that whole program, Kyle, those guys, huge value add for sure. So
Yeah, they do a ton of work, and they're just like a
We don't
global
believe
team.
they
No,
don't-
no, they don't. They don't. Uh, so as we wrap up here, we just tweeted out some links, but where can people find more information about Bitflow and about you guys?
Yeah.
Diego,
So
tell them.
yeah, right now, Bitflow Finance on Twitter, bitflow.finance as well. And then sign up for the beta access. You get an invite link to our Discord. We're trying to keep it very tight and organized in the beginning because we do want to listen to every member in the Discord. So sign up for beta, join your Discord, participate in the conversation, the testing out for products and feedback. I mean, at the same time, we have to remember that we're also building the governance, the details of our DAO, how, how the governance tokens are going to work, the incentive mechanism. So there's a lot of, answers that we hope to build with the community. So that'll be the best way to participate. Check us out on Twitter, sign up for a beta, and you'll receive an invite to our Discord and join the party and come build. That keeps us motivated and it keeps us going. And I think this is something that we'll start to see more and more often, where products are built from the ground up with the community, as opposed to building the product and then inviting the community. So yeah, we're open to all the feedback and all the help that we can get in order to build this the most fair, straight, transparent, and trustless way possible.
And you can always like DM us on Twitter if you want.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Before we depart here, one update: we want everyone in the community to know we still are on a path to build out the marketplace for people offering services. So you can find meme masters, you can find developers, you can find smart contract auditors, you can find people who are interested in making some content. We we have an we've been kicking around this name Ceruleum for the marketplace. So still an idea concept. Mariaverse, James, and Kenny are working on some of the final pieces before we launch the beta here. And if you are watching this or you watch this on the replay, please go to our site and go to our Twitter, sign up on our block surveys to add a service in it. We have a number of different kind of services. And if you need a new kind of service to be offered, we can work with you and put that there so people can find you later. With that being said, we're really thankful to have you guys on today, and we really appreciate the time. James, any final words before we depart?
Yeah. Just hope everybody has a good fourth. If you're traveling, listening to this, I hope it's the audio version and you're staying on the road. But beyond that, really excited to see what Bitflow turns into. I really like this new model, and I always say when kind of new technology develops like DLC Link, there's just going to be so many. It creates a whole new form of building blocks that people can build with, and it's just so exciting to see what people do with it. Adds more creativity, and you find real interesting solutions to problems, and that's all it takes for things to succeed. So I'm really excited for you guys. You guys are great guys, and just looking forward to see what all comes.
Yeah, thank y'all. Enjoy the chat. Hope you have a great weekend as well.
One last thing before we depart. Really love the new City Pack collaboration with Satoshables. And so, is this giveaway still going on, Diego?
Yes, it is. There's actually 2 city packs, one on the Satoshable Discord and one in our own Discord. And this is the beginning of a experiment as well to turn your PFPs into city packs. And I can't wait to get those Bitcoin sunglasses.
Nice.
In real life.
Yeah, I saw this the other day and I was like, that is pure gold. Yeah, so I just had to give a shout out really quick there.
No, I appreciate it, and looking forward to where you guys had the Zero Authority. I signed up for both service and service provider. And I think, the vision that you guys have as an open source and permissionless system just aligns very well with the ethos of the whole blockchain and Bitcoin and stacks. And I'm a big, supporter of anything open source, open educational resources, as you know. So I think, we're heading to a very bright future, and even though the market is down, I'm up, and we're up.
Yeah, well said. Even though the market is down, we are up. I can feel it, man. I can really feel it. Diego, Dylan, thanks so much for the conversation today, and thanks, James.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Appreciate it.
Likewise. Take care.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.